actually another one. You can have two.
All right, quite the crowd tonight. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. Certainly, there we go. There's our first applause. All right, so first off, before we get started, I want to make sure everybody knows here we've had panels in the past where people have brought their underage children. Stack Up, we are a military charity, and we are rated M for mature. We're a bunch of cigar-smoking, whiskey-drinking veterans, and we have a swearing problem. So just a heads up, we get a little blue up here, so if you have any kids that are, maybe take them out. But anyway, otherwise, you have been warned. Good evening, everyone. Second day at PAX, welcome. This is the War Stories Veterans and Gaming panel. Third annual now? We've been doing this a couple times. We've been getting more and more population each time. Thank you all for coming out. I certainly was not expecting a line out there. I know the floor is a little light, but I didn't expect this. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get on with the show. Hopefully. Come on now. There we go. Okay, real quick. Before we introduce ourselves, I am the founder. My name is Steve Machuga, ex-Army captain. And I run a small military charity called StackUp.org. You might have seen us out there on the show floor. We got people doing push-ups for Steam codes. Anyway, we are a military charity. We support veterans through video gaming, geek culture, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, any number of escapes and fun things to do. Started off as a luxury care package service. When I hung up my uniform, I wanted to continue helping men and women in service still. I had a buddy who was in. He knew I had connections to the games industry. We hooked him up with a bunch of stuff. Joe Snuffy caught wind of people sending thousands of dollars worth of video games to them, and next thing you know, the requests started to come in, and we just started to do this. So we have since transitioned from luxury care package service through our supply crates to almost more of a medical support organization between our newly announced suicide prevention team, STOP program, the Stack Up Overwatch program, as they like to call themselves. We've got our air assault program, where we take disabled and or deserving veterans and we fly them out to events like this, Comic-Con, E3. Generally take guys who game and have never been to an event like this, and we just blow the back of their minds off. They come out here, they see that they're not alone, which is important. And we have our Stacks program, which is our local teams getting together, getting out there, supporting veterans in their area, getting out, and one another as well. So let's go ahead and get on to the panelists. Come on now. There we go. Stay there. Son of a... All right, that's me. Once upon a time I was hard, not anymore. I've been out 10 years. Cut me some break. Anyway, Captain, U.S. Army, spent my first 4 in the 82nd, falling out of perfectly good aircraft. And then my last 4 were with the 2nd Infantry Division out of Fort Lewis, where I deployed to Iraq for 13 months, and all this nonsense all started. Stack Up was born from my time over in Iraq. While I was over there, had some shit go down, as the kids would say, and bottom line is I used gaming to get through my time while I was over there, and came back home. I struggled with transitioning back home. You step off the plane and everybody has just been going on with their lives, and you're like, do you not know what's going on over there? Holy shit! So yeah, that was 8 years, and that was me up there. So let's go ahead and get on with some of our other panelists up here. This was my, hey, I'm kind of a gamer picture right here. So this is literally 24 hours before we deployed. We were getting ready to load up the planes, and as you can see, that very, very interesting square in my front pocket there, Final Fantasy Tactics, that got me through a very long period of time for those of you who have played that game. So I am a real gamer. All right, let's get on. Here we go. Dave Krause. Dave, if you would.
Check? Oh, wait. Yes. All right. Mine doesn't light up like his does. Apologize. So my name is Dave Krause. I am the Veteran Services Director for StackUp.org. I had the distinct pleasure of serving 11 years in the Marines. Thank you. 7 years as a highly motivated supply administrator, which I feel like I may need to explain what that is, guys. I was a very cool guy who sat behind a desk and made sure that we issued MREs properly. And I got bored, and I decided to go work on bombs, so I became an EOD tech, which, for those of you who are not aware, bomb squad, basically, and that's how I got this wonderful parting gift. Did EOD for a couple years, got hurt in Cambodia on a humanitarian operation. Spent a couple years at Walter Reed recovering from my injuries where I met Steven. Really liked what he was doing in the charity space. I too had used gaming a lot while I was in Marines, while I was deployed, and then of course while I was at Walter Reed recovering. So it was a very big part of my military career, a big part of my life before that, and a huge part of my recovery mentally, and to a certain extent physically, which I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to speak more on later. But yeah, those are some pictures of a very young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Dave Krause, and that's me in a nutshell, folks. I'm excited to be here today with you guys.
All right, next up. Yeah, Gabriel here did not send in a picture to be to use, so I found one for him. Gabe, if you would.
Yeah, hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Gabriel Flores. G Flo is they call me. I'm a partner at Mixture Streamer, but I also did spend 8 years in the Army over at USASOC Airborne. Yeah, no, I did 3 tours over there. I worked with a lot of groups, 1st, 3rd, 7th, and 10th Special Forces groups. Worked with 1st and 3rd of the 75th Ranger Regiment, and also did set up what is now known as the 1st Special Forces Command, which oversees all the Special Forces groups. Yeah, I've been video gaming for quite some time. Was over on Twitch for, I want to say, I don't know, six years before I came over to Mixer, and last year I came here, actually came to the panel you guys had here, went over to the panel over with Mixer, and here I am now playing video games and here with you guys, so hopefully I get to share some good stories with you guys.
And maybe you too can join us up here next year. Anyway,
This could be your seat.
exactly. All right, that's good. Appreciate it. And Stabby, if you would. Let's see if this loads up. Come on, brother.
There we go.
Hey.
I'm Mr. McStabby, also known as Ryan. I spent 12 years in the National Guard, deployed to Iraq, 04-05, did a bunch of emergency service deployments, fighting forest fires. Went down to Louisiana for Hurricane Katrina once. Basically, I'm here to make dumb jokes and fuck with Steve as much as I can.
All right. Those are our panelists. I don't know if I have anything after this, actually. Oh, there we go. This is a picture of him. Where was this at?
So that was actually from a position we called Overlord. If you watch the news media during Iraq, that was the traffic circle, and that was the mosque in the background of every news media. They would actually stand down below where you can't really see and shoot with their camera aimed just over the wall, so it looked like they were standing on the streets of Baghdad. And they had 2 companies of us in that hotel complex guarding them, one with a company of Gurkhas. Bad place. Oh, actually, that was where, if you look in the middle there, that flat spot, that was where the statue of Saddam was pulled down with the APC, and there were all the people in the video hitting it with their shoes. Yeah, it was that traffic circle.
All righty. Well, there's our introductions. Come on now. Apparently this is the right, really?
You broke it.
Can you scroll down there? I didn't think I'm just
Apple.
We are.
Yeah, all right, pro level,
Steve.
MLG, baby. All right, adapt and overcome. Anyway, so that is our introduction. There you go. So, all right, real quick, let's hands in the air. How many vets have we got here? Really? I thought there were. I thought y'all were going to be vets. Yeah, there we go. Thank you for your service. Hey, fun fact, civilians. Veterans kind of have fun with that when you tell them that. They kind of, okay.
I was this close to introducing myself as my name is Dave Krause. You're welcome for my service. I wasn't sure. I've had some crickets before where I've had these jokes in my head where I'm like, this is gonna go great, and I have embarrassed myself and others. So I decided, I was like, I'm gonna go in like really easy with this.
All right. Yeah, just pull it back up. Sorry about that. Apparently the rest of the slides did not make it. Anyway, so yeah, thank you all seriously for your service. What we're gonna do, we're gonna talk a little bit about our experiences. Halfway through, we have microphones, correct? Cool. We'll run it into the audience. Y'all can ask us questions. You can talk about your time of service, anything you want to talk about. Fair play, that's what we're here for. So I was talking about, I guess I'll go into my story. How many of you here were here from last year's panel? Like I hate doing the story over and over again, but it's like, all right, we've got a bunch of new people, so here we go. So as I was saying, I started Stack Up because civilians back home, well-meaning civilians, would pack up any kind of nonsense they could, and they would ship it overseas to the fighting men and women, not knowing what they really want. So we would get boxes and boxes of wet wipes and toilet paper and baby powder and socks. Oh, God bless socks. But yes, just so I was attached to an infantry company as an intel guy, and one of the boxes we got was a crate of third-hand Harlequin romance novels. For those of you who are not vets, infantry company, all dudes, all hard-charging boys. And so it was literally like, you crack that thing open, it's like, all right, what are we gonna do with this? So we ended up using them for...
Use your socks.
What's that?
Use your socks.
So we ended up using the romance novels on the confiscated arms range for target practice. So we ended up getting some use out of them, but that was like the story that was always like, hey, people back home want to help, but people also back home kind of treat helping as this like weird 5th grade canned food drive mentality where they're just going in, grabbing whatever they can, sending it overseas. I knew what guys wanted, because I was that guy. And a lot of these guys would have said the same thing. Everybody we talked to, oh yeah, I played the hell out of some video games overseas. So not everybody is sitting in a logistics hub, in a place where they have ready access to that stuff. So we wanted to make sure we were taking care of those guys. So that's how this whole thing started off. When I got home from my time overseas in Iraq, I had some trouble adjusting. Primarily my thing was trash day on Tuesdays, which sounds weird, but for those of you who've ever run convoy support while in either Iraq or Afghanistan, you understand that there's no sanitation department overseas, or if there is one, it's a joke. And Iraqis just, I'm done with this, and just throw it out the window of their car or whatever. So you have piles and piles of trash just everywhere. And that's where insurgents would like to hide explosive devices. So you'd have these big piles of trash with like wires leading off to a bridge or an embankment 50 meters away with command detonated IED sitting there. And so I get home, and every Tuesday there are random piles of trash up and down my street, and so my brain, like, I know I'm safe, but my brain just starts sweating for whatever reason. It's like, ugh, all right, like that weird vertigo feeling when you're on a tall building and you're like, I wonder what would happen if I just stepped off. That weird like, hey brain, shut up. So I also got home 3 weeks before the release of a little game known as World of Warcraft. So I found that game, like I was sitting in a Walmart parking lot at 6 a.m. because I knew what that thing was gonna be. And got it home, spent the whole half a day loading it, waiting on patches, not working, and I was just like, oh, this is gonna be great. And I dove into that game, and over time, as I was playing that game, and I was, all right, a little obsessed with it, but over time, my stress about leaving the house would diminish. And I would just be focused on the game, or I'd be playing the game and I wouldn't think about it, or I'd be stressing about having to go to an appointment or something, and I'd jump in game for a little bit, and my heart level would go down, like I wouldn't be flipping out about things. I'd be like, all right, not knowing it at the time, this is back in 2004, I didn't know any of this was gonna happen. And now the more vets that we talk to, the more folks that we're talking to, the more people play video games as a way of escaping. Like just a reality break, guys who don't want to go on pills or medication that the VA is shoving down their throats, and they just turn on Destiny and they get in a fire team with their boys and they play games together, and it relaxes them in a way that traditional, normal medicine is readjusting for, I guess you could say. So we're trying to go about it in a more alternative medicine way, in a more fun way. Instead of guys sitting on a leather couch and paying a guy $100, we would rather you have fun with it and enjoy yourself, and if you want to talk about it, that's great. So that's a big piece of what Stack Up was. That's my story. Let's go down the line here. Actually, Stabby, if you want to start us off, what was your story?
You want me to tell the 240 story again?
Absolutely, it's a great story.
So it's good we have this picture up. On the other side of the building from this, we had a position we call backside of Overlord. Backside of Overlord was where they put people who'd been having a shitty week, because you sat there and you looked at the river and the green zone. There was no one coming for you unless it was the Air Force from the fucking green zone. It was as safe as you could get. You were bored. Off to your left, there was, I can't remember, I think it was like the French or the German embassy. Nobody was gonna screw with you here. It was, we're gonna put a guy here. We need to have him doing a job, but he's been freaking out or having a rough time. We're just gonna put him there for the day. Well, I was having a rough day, so my platoon sergeant put me there. And I'm sitting there, you know, I've got instead of magazines, I've got sodas in my ammo pouches, and I'm like, this is gonna be a badass day, and I'm gonna chill, and it's gonna be great. Well, at the time, my battalion commander was home on leave, so our executive officer had taken over. And he decided it was time to go and tour the positions. Our executive officer was an engineer. He was a very literal guy. He needed to know the numbers of everything. I'd never met him before, but I'd heard a bit about him, you know, don't fuck with the guy, everything. But I'm like, yeah, I'm outside the wire, I'm in a position. Today's gonna be a chill day, nobody will screw with me. Well, I hear the door behind me open. I don't stand up, I'm still sitting there. I hear a bunch of boots coming. I'm like, oh. Now look, it's the XO and his groupies. I don't know what the fuck you call them.
Their entourage.
Three or four captains that had never left the fob either. You know? These guys, like, they're just overjoyed. They're taking pictures of everything. Oh my God, I'm out in the combat zone. I'm just like, hey, what's up? I don't even stand up, you know. I'm like, fuck it, I'm having a chill day. Well, he looks at me and he's looking at my range card and he's like asking me shit about the range card, and I'm like, it's right there. Whatever you need, it's right fucking there, dude. Why are you asking me this shit? Not realizing he wanted to make sure I had actually read it. So he finally looks at me and he says, soldier, what's your left limit of fire? So I look at him and I reach out, and the 240's on a pindle. And I reach out and I grab the back of it and I went, where it hits the stop, and I went, that way. Now, I've never been good at reading people. I didn't really realize at this point, he's pissed. So he says, let's try this again. What's your right limit of fire? And in my head, I'm thinking, are you stupid? Over there, sir. At this point, I realize he's mad. His face is red, he's pissed off, he storms off, and I hear this heated conversation going on, and I'm looking at the captains around me going, sup? And I sit the fuck back down. Yeah. They leave, shit goes by, you know, not a big thing, and I hear the shuffling behind me that I know. Anybody who's ever been infantry, you can tell who somebody is after you've been working with them for a while just by the cadence of their walk. And I know it's my platoon sergeant, and he's mad. So he come up and he went, you motherfucker. All he wanted was the azimuth, and I went, he didn't ask that, he asked what it was. I said, all right, you're not allowed to put, any of you guys old school PlayStation guys? There was a game, Manhunt. Oh, I loved Manhunt. God, I played that shit every fucking day. He took away the fucking disc for 2 weeks. Because as he said, this is the worst thing I can do to you. So that's my gaming in the combat zone story.
All right, G-Flow, you ready?
Yeah.
You got something?
Yeah, how many of you guys here ever used a RTS or a remote turret system if you guys were veterans? Anyone here ever used one? You guys remember how those things work? It's like a nice little joystick, fire, like you're like, you know, Ace Combat.
Controller.
Exactly. Well, I had a nice, awesome First Sergeant Ranger that loved to pick on me all the time. And he knew I was a video gamer. I mean, I came in, I think I was only in there in his unit for about, I don't know, I was fresh, 4 months maybe at most. And we had just gone to Afghanistan, and he was like, hey, Flores, come here, you little shit. You play video games, don't you? It's like, yes, First Sergeant. Well, you're gonna go ahead and sign you up for a class for the RTS, mind you. No fucking clue what the hell the RTS even was. I'm like fresh out of like AIT, airborne school. Like, I don't know what yeah, sure, why not, whatever. Put me whatever you want to put in. And I think he went in there like not thinking I was going to succeed. As soon as I picked up that joystick, I swear I don't even think I missed the freaking target. They like okay, we're gonna put up some targets for like, I don't know, 700, 800 meters. You know, hardly any people are like hitting that. No, not this guy. I had been playing video games since I've been like 6 years old, and he was just astounded by the fact that I was there. And as soon as I was done, I'd be like, all right, first round, well, I'm gonna go back to class. I'm gonna go here into the lounge and just play some video games. Whenever he needed me to go back to class, he was just always picking on me all the time. And he's one of the most hard-ass rangers I think I've ever had, man. That dude set me straight so many times. But yeah, if it wasn't for him though, like pushing me the way he did, like playing with him, like video games after, like we kind of broke the ice. That dude was just like picking on me left and right. And if any of you guys know, being a soft skill MOS, because I was a 25 uniform, if anyone here was a 25 uniform, being a soft skill MOS in a soft community, you definitely have to stand your ground, prove yourself. And I definitely have to do that a lot with good old First Sergeant Turkle. So
What's a 25 uniform?
Signal support system specialist.
There you go. So
The jack of all trades, because we all know we have those, the 25 Bravos, you have your Charlies, your networking, your radio guys, you know, everyone's got like everything. The 25 uniform was like, here, we're just gonna toss you in every fucking class and just learn a little bit and then you're good to go.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
we were very universal, so that's pretty much what they like to do. You were like, oh, you're the jack of all trades guy? Yeah, okay, go ahead and clean that bathroom, you're very universal.
Very nice. All right, David, if you would.
Yeah, man, I'd come in with all these like serious stories, you know, I'm like, oh, I gotta switch gears. But actually, I remember one when we were going to Iraq. So I deployed in 2006. I was still supply at the time, so relatively speaking, I had it really, really, really good when I was in Iraq. We had a lot of mortars being dropped on us, but you know, I didn't want for months, right? Like we had food, we had a decent place to sleep, like things were pretty good. I had brought, you know, along with all my deployment gear, I had stuffed my original Xbox into my sea bag. This was right around the time I think the Xbox 360 was coming out, but I was E4 and I was poor and I couldn't afford it. And I'd gotten a $360 ticket for throwing a cigarette butt out a window in North Carolina. And that was my Xbox 360 money. So I had my Xbox with me and like a CD wallet full of games. And we had just moved out of tents, so we'd been living in tents for a few weeks and I didn't have a TV or power to actually use it. We finally moved into what we call cans, which are basically, for those of you who don't know, are basically trailers. They're like small trailers. You can stick a bunch of guys in, they'll put bunk beds and crap in there, and they're air conditioned, so we love them. And a lot of the guys will buy a TV and put it in our cans and, you know, play some games. So I had this fresh TV. I was very, very excited. Busted out the Xbox. Again, we'd been out there for a few weeks, about a month at this time, and I hadn't played any video games, and I was starting to like get antsy. And I learned the difference between 120 and 240 volts by... Yeah, so I did not know what a transformer or an inverter was or any of that. And I plugged the Xbox right into the wall. I said, we're gonna play some games, guys. Click, poof, click, bang, poof of smoke. And I must have stood there and watched that plume of smoke dissipate for as long as it took for it to fully disappear. And I'm just looking at him like, I don't know, is it dead? Like, you know, is it dead? And it was dead. It was dead. So I now had this, the original Xbox, it was like a 40-pound paperweight now. But, and then on top of it, we had one of the young Marines who was with us had left our trailer unsecured, and as our first sergeant was very zealously going through to look for Marines leaving gear unsecured so he could take it, he stole all of my Xbox games.
Did you eventually get them back?
I did, yeah, but I had to go to his office to get it because I came back to our trailer and all of my games were gone. My broken Xbox was sitting there. And I ended up having to go chase down the first sergeant and get my games back. But my now wife, who I was dating at the time, was kind enough to send me her brother's Xbox. So I got it replaced, got a transformer from one of the Haji shops down the road, and played a lot of Knights of the Old Republic and Halo. We'd do game nights and stuff with the projectors that we took from the chapel.
A Haji shop, for those of you who don't know, is the derogatory term for the folks who are nice enough to sell us things on the base and then probably report information back to the enemy at night.
Yeah.
So, true.
Is there a politically correct name for what those are?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Because I actually tried for a moment.
Third world convenience.
What should I?
Absolutely.
Third world convenience store.
Pretty good though, I like that.
I like that too.
The
All right, y'all. Hey,
economy.
real quick show of hands. We're almost halfway done. How many people have questions for the panel? Just general. Raise your hands. So I have a feeling we might have to start chewing through those. All right, yeah, let's get to it then. I was gonna ask another round of questions, but I want to make sure we're able to hit. We're not accustomed to this many folks showing up. So let's go ahead and start lining up behind the mics. Do we have one mic stand too?
Looks like
I
one.
can't
Yeah,
see it.
I think there's only one.
The spotlight's on me here. One. All right, it should be all right.
Light's coming right into my good eye.
All right. All right, go ahead and start us off, man. What do you got?
All right, hello, my name is Tammy.
I'm gonna swing right past you.
I
Hello,
am
Tammy.
Daughter of veterans, niece of veterans, my boyfriend's active duty.
Oh,
What's the best way, from your perspective, to support your soldier while they're in? And there's all sorts of things that I see about, you know, cute little letters with some lipstick on it and all that cute shit. But we're both gamers. And for me, emotionally, they always can't express things to you. They always can't talk to you about everything. But we speak through gaming. So talk a little bit about that. If you had a significant other, if you had somebody, how did they support you during this time? And also, how did you use gaming?
all right. I think we all have something, but anybody want to take this one? Specifically?
I can take this one. I was married while I was in Iraq. I'm gonna go with the less than politically correct thing. Video chat. Y'all know what I mean, right? Video chat. Being able to see and hear who you're talking to. Now, admittedly, back in 2004, video chat was AOL Instant Messenger, and it was a shitstorm. But nowadays, it's a lot better. Honestly, you know, I owe my ex-wife a lot because, you know, she really helped me out while I was in and after I got out, after I got home. But even though, because like he'll go to write, trust me on this. Anybody that's been in a combat zone, you'll type up a long ass letter or an email or something, and then you'll go through and you'll delete all the shit you can't say, and you wind up with, "Hey, still alive? Good to see you. Bye." But just the reply back of letting them know that you're there, you got their back, no matter what. That's what they need, you know, being there.
And being the spouse or girlfriend, that is, as far as I was concerned, that was the harder of the two gigs. Like, yeah, we were getting shot at, but at least we knew what we signed up for that. We knew what we were getting into. We knew where we were at, and we didn't have that constant dread of not knowing. And when I got back, my girlfriend, then now wife, now ex-wife, but I'm a veteran, guys. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Anyway, so wow, that went real
We're here to learn.
That went
guys.
dark real
We're here
quick.
to learn from our mistakes.
But anyway, my girlfriend at the time, that was back when they had caller ID, and she had gotten a random call. She didn't know how, not funeral service, what do they call that? When they send somebody to your house.
Oh,
What's that?
CNO, cash notification.
Notifications.
Notifications.
She didn't know how they worked, so she got this like random call from the government, and she flipped out. Like, because it's just the idea of not knowing. Whereas, and we know what was going on. Like, we're fine, we're good, no problems. But so God bless you all for putting up with all that noise.
Anything you would have did differently?
Do differently. What would you have done differently?
as far as like just overall.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah.
I'll be honest, like if I spend enough time picking my own brain and getting inside my head, I can come up with things. But I look at like even all this, you know, and some of the struggles I've gone through. But I look at where I am now, and I get to stand here and I get to talk to you guys. And if I'm lucky and I'm doing my job, I get to help out a couple veterans. So I look at everything holistically and say like, there's nothing I would have done differently.
And hey, there's an organization out there called Stack Up. We can send your boy a bunch of stuff.
Excellent. Thank you.
So hook up with us after we're done. We'll get your card and we'll take care of you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Don't let him off the hook.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
My wife was so supportive, right? And I had one child. I had a daughter at the time when I got hurt. Now I have 2 kids because hey, that still works. But
Glad you said something, I was wondering.
hey, now you know. So we're gonna learn some valuable things about each other, folks. So I had a daughter and my wife, and they were just so incredibly supportive. And I like to think that I handled it all pretty well at the time, but there were some times where I wasn't handling it so well, and I was kind of a jerk, right? And so I did the whole apology tour thing with doctors and nurses and stuff before I finally left Walter Reed. But my wife was always so supportive. She was just there, and she didn't always say anything. She didn't know what to say, and I certainly wasn't willing to talk to her about a great many things at the time. And she was kind of waiting me out, and I think she gave me a little too much slack in some regards. And I'm not saying like you should hound him about stuff, but like don't let him off the hook too easy either, because make him talk to you. Screw that. Like he doesn't get to live in a box, but understand like there's some things he probably won't want to talk about, and the best advice I give is like, just understand that it's not because he doesn't trust you and it's not because he doesn't love you. It's because there's just some things I don't want my wife to have to carry. Like there's some stuff that I made my mind up that I'm going to carry that, and I don't want to put that on her, because as a man, I still feel like I need to support my family. I need to bear the burden of the family. And even though this all happened, I still wanted to be able to do that. And it was even more important because I felt like I'd really been emasculated by the fact that I had blown myself up. And I needed to continue to carry that. So just be patient with them, but don't let them off the hook completely either.
Thank you.
No,
Very nice, very nice. All right, next up.
Hey, so I'm a current active duty officer in the Army.
Oh,
Couple stories first, if you'll give me the time for a second. So I too deployed with a Game Boy Advance. C-17 on the way to Afghanistan in 2001, and that got me through that trip over there as we were going into who knows what at that point. We had no idea. But when we got there, to the thank you for your service comment, we received all those cards and everything, and the funny story is one of those cards we received from a kid, from elementary school, had this picture of this guy, stick figure, dying, and it said, "Thank you for killing the tourists." So that was a great story. No, then as a company commander in Baghdad, we were in the southern part of Baghdad, in Dora, and stressful situation, a lot of stuff. Well, I as a company commander set up a rock band set in the company talk, and those guys used to come back and play that
in the
every day.
talk?
In the company CP.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say.
In my company
I have to get
CP.
that approved.
And they would go in there, and I saw those guys come together. Not only was it good individually, it actually got them together. And actually, we got called up to go to Bakuba because we were the op reserve. And the night before we went, we had all the company commanders and the squadron commander in there playing rock band together, relieving stress. So there really is something to what you're doing. And I want to thank you for what you're doing. And last thing is a question, tabletop gaming. What have you seen with tabletop for veterans and your experience with that? Thanks.
Chief Lo, you got anything?
No, unfortunately, I do not play table.
Anybody got anything there, tabletop?
Actually, yeah, we just finished D&D 214.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So I actually just recently finished a Dungeons and Dragons group that we dubbed D and DD 214. For those of you who are not veterans, the DD Form 214 is your discharge paperwork. It's your freedom papers. And so we'd kind of been, we're very big Critical Role fans. If there's any Critical Role fans in here yet, we are one of you. And we'd kind of been talking about this idea of putting a veteran D&D group together. So I kind of set out to find a group of veterans who had never played Dungeons and Dragons before, find somebody to DM it, and kind of give these guys an opportunity to sit down and play a few sessions of this game that we love so much, but a lot of people don't really know how to get into, or maybe feel like, that's a little bit too far down the nerd path, I'm not ready to go there. We had a really, really great time with it. It was myself, of course I played before, another friend of mine who had played before but never DM'd, so he took the DM responsibilities, and we had 3 other guys who'd never ever played a pen and paper RPG before. And over the course of, I would say we were playing weekly, we went on for about 3 months, and by the end of it, 3 more D&D addicts who are now like, I gotta find another game, We've actually started shipping starter kits to really focusing on Navy units as much as I can, because I know for naval units that are on ship, they play a lot of Magic the Gathering. They love the tabletop stuff, anything they can get around to the table and just just go somewhere else. I did not really get the opportunity to play when I was in. I should have, but if I'm being perfectly honest, there was like the kind of alpha. I had this, like, I'm an alpha, I'm an EOD tech, like I can't be running around talking about Dungeons and Dragons, like I'm a killer now. So, I never really brought it up.
I mean,
Very late into my military career when I was finally even willing to embrace how much I loved gaming and force it down people's throats and make them play games with me.
yeah, don't let that alpha stuff stop you, man, guys. Because, like, you guys don't know. For all you know, some of those sergeants and those captains and those lieutenants that are there with you, they might be nerds too. I mean, going to PAX when I first started, like, 6 years ago, I went to PAX, like, hey, Sarge, I need to sign my leave form because I need to get my leave form signed so I can get out of here. And come to find out, my entire G6 shop was nerds.
What's the G6 shop? Come on, that's
Naturally.
a big.
Yeah, no, but like I had like 4 like people from the like 82nd sergeants who were just like straight hard asses, and they were always giving so much shit like, in a good place to, do this and that. But the second I said, oh yeah, no, one of my friend plays like, this new Pokemon game. Oh, he plays Pokemon. It's like, don't be afraid to come out of that shell, I promise you. There's so many people out there that like to hide it. They do that whole alpha thing because they're in the military. Oh, I wear a suit, I wear a uniform, I gotta do this, and this, I gotta be a hard ass. No. Talk to people, let them know, I promise you. 5 times out of 10, half of them are fucking gamers right now.
World of Warcraft used to be spoken in
Yeah.
very hushed tones. And when there was like a nod, you know what I mean? Like you'd look at a guy and be like, this motherfucker looks like he probably plays World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And you'd study each other, and you'd be like, and you might like throw a hint out there, like, yeah, there's this stupid game like World of Warcraft or something. And you look for the response, and if they looked like, yeah, that's
What?
stupid, but you could see it in their eyes that they were like, that's my game. And that's how I would identify other people who played World of Warcraft, so we could hook up at the weekend at the barracks, drink beer, and play World of Warcraft together. But actually, Quinn, who has a great story about that, actually has pictures of them playing D&D in Saddam's palace after they took the palace.
Nice.
It's a really great picture.
Nice.
It's awesome, and yeah, I know that it's this great, really low-tech way of entertainment that you can take with you everywhere, and it's never the same story twice. So.
Yeah, you got a bag of dice, you're good. One more time?
You also don't have to worry about a 240 volt.
Yes, that's true.
This is true.
All right, next up.
Hi, I'm Derek. I was a designated marksman infantry. I just want to share a couple of quick gaming in a war zone stories. Apropos of the World of Warcraft thing, I was in Iraq in 05 and 06, shortly after WoW had launched, and I didn't play at the time, although I played for many years since then, but it was going around in our company, all the lieutenants had started playing together. And one night, first sergeant calls me in after I come back from patrol, and he says, hey, Raymond, I need you to come to my can, I want to talk to you. So I came to his can, he says, listen, these guys, they invited me to play this World of Warcraft game with them, but I can't figure out how to get it working on my computer. And I said, well, first sergeant, I heard you're working out the leave rotation. And I said,
You can just end the story right there.
I'd really like to be home for Christmas.
Long
And,
story short, I
he
got
said
2 months off.
Yeah, so long story short, I was home for 2 weeks over Christmas, and he got to play WoW with lieutenants. So, second story, I was in an OP kind of near, I worked the MSR between Ramadi and Fallujah for a long time. Doing target interdiction, that was kind of my role. And I was in an OP, it was actually a really unusually fortified OP, and I was an E4 at the time, sitting up, and I was supposed to be watching the road through my nods all night.
Supposed to be the keyword.
And so what I was actually doing was playing my Nintendo DS, but what was really amusing about it was I was literally playing Splinter Cell on my DS with night vision goggles like Captain guys in Splinter Cell, and ignoring the actual theater with the real lines. My PBS 14s were like up on my, flipped up, not doing anything. And we started taking, my position started taking rounds, and I ended up being in a firefight for about 90 minutes. It was eventually put down by air support with the Apaches, and then Literally 30 minutes after that, I was back in the OP playing Splinter Cell again. Like, oh, finally I can get back to my game.
To work.
But you know, it's because like it really is an escape, even if you're doing the same thing, and kind of abstracting it like that. I know when I came back, I mean, I definitely, like a lot of people, experienced some adjustment difficulties, and even today, like I can't. There's a lot of games like I tried to finish Spec Ops: The Line, for example, and I couldn't finish that. Like there's a lot of games where I've not been able to push myself through it, but even having the escape while I was there was really important to me at the time, and I know there's a lot of other guys that didn't have access to that kind of stuff. Like I was ordering, you know, I ordered DS, I had like a little N64 emulator with me, I was doing all kinds of stuff. People would come over to my tent or my can and play all the time, but a lot of them didn't have those things, so I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. So.
Thank you. Good story. That was awesome. Very nice. All right. Yeah. You know what? And hold on. Before you say, we've got like 17 photographers in here. Does somebody get a picture of this crew here? Because I'm just happy. This is amazing. We have this many people. You good? All right. Awesome. Sorry. Continue.
No worries. So I'm Air Force. I know it's Air Force. I understand it.
We forget you guys are really handy when we need shit blown up.
Do we have any Coast Guard people in there?
Coast Guard?
Good. Oh, we got one.
Nice.
Half my EOD shop was actually supplied by Air Force because you guys had so much extra equipment. And I'm not even exaggerating. They had so much extra equipment and excess funding that they would just buy new EOD robots, and we'd get this like $800,000 robot, and they're like, we don't know what to do with it, man. We're like, we'll fucking take it. I had a robot that we had jury rigged together with like parts of like 3 different robots that the Navy had discarded. And then the Air Force was like, here man, here's an extra robot. And we're like, all right. And bomb suits, and like half of our EOD truck was like excess gear that the Air Force had. So I love the Air Force.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of Air Force guys getting all the good stuff, we had a pair of combat controllers. They were covering the air superiority stuff, and we're in there in a pair of GP mediums, and these assholes are there with Coleman tents, and I'm like, fuck you, too. 17 people in this canvas tent. These guys were camping.
You do know our combat experience is a lot more than theirs, and we could take that bump.
Oh, yeah. Great, yeah. Well, we just had the numbers on them. They were attached to us. We could totally fucking fuck them up. But anyway, all right, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Chair Force. What do you got for us?
I do have to say that when I joined the military, I asked my brother, and he looked at me and he said, Stephen, I was in the Army for 4 years. Join the Air Force.
You're not wrong. That's the right answer.
Your brother is a wise man.
Yes.
Mine is I'm currently stationed overseas, and before I was going, I went to a training called Dynamics of International Terrorism, where we had some talkers come in. There was a gentleman that was on top of Khobar Towers, a security forces guy.
He was on top of the Khobar Towers.
He was the security forces sergeant at the time, and he saw the truck pull off, and he was the guy that was running and getting people up and getting them going. He saved a lot of lives that night, but that was one.
Wow.
And unfortunately, during that time was the time when the Marine recruiter that training happened right then. So I myself had a little bit of a, and it's nothing compared to you guys. You guys were actually over there, but
You're good, man.
being able to before, but I retreated into my games maybe a little bit too much to my detriment. So I was wondering what you guys' suggestions about that, like when you might know that you've kind of regressed too far into the games.
I can.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I can. I'll be happy to take that one, man. I want to say after my third tour, I definitely dove into my games a lot. I got really into Final Fantasy 14, and I went hard. I was putting almost like like about 70 hours a week, and I was. Mind you, I was juggling working full-time at the G6 at that time. I was also going to work, coming back, still putting that. I was sleeping like maybe 2 or 3 hours. And yeah, it sucks because when you get to that point, you're like, man, like, you don't see it yourself. You kind of lose yourself in that little motion where you're like, you blank everything out around you and you just don't care. You just do what you're supposed to do. You come back, you get back on it. Best advice I can give you, man, when it gets to that point, you'll start to see, like, you'll start to notice you have very minimal interaction with the people, which I'm sure is happening with you. Like, you're not interacting with anyone. There's no human interaction, like, face to face, and you need that. You have no idea how awesome it is to, like, you know, go out and reach out to your friends. I mean, granted, yes, you do have your online friends, which I'm sure some of you are probably meeting other online friends here right now, and that's good. Like, if you do make friends like that, and that emotional bond, like, makes you feel better, that's okay. I mean, I get it. Like, most of my friends are all online, man. Most of my friends are over here in the front row right now, actually, all scattered all over the country. And, like, it's good to have it. Like, if you know, it's healthy if you're making friends and you feel good and you feel cared for. Like, you know, you have friends online that are there playing the same games with you, making you feel good, talking to about, you know, your problems, what's on your mind, stuff like that's fine. But if you get to the point where you know you're not talking to anyone at all whatsoever, you really need to stop there and, like, think about it for a little bit and really try and control, like, what's going on with you, man. So that's the best advice I can give you. If you don't see it, if you don't have it with your friends online, find it somewhere with your friends there, man. That's what I had to do, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for, like, the better set of friends that I have now.
Stephanie, you got anything?
It's not really safe for work.
NSFW.
We're all friends here, baby.
I got into the same boat a little bit, Call of Duty. I got way too focused into it. Stopped talking to friends. It really started, you know, impacting my life. And I lucked out that old friend from high school knew where I lived and just came over and literally fucking kidnapped me and took me to a strip club.
We will do that.
Behold the
That's your not safe for work?
boobs,
Strip
fix
club?
so much shit. Oh my god. I was like, oh my god, I haven't seen titties in so long. Fuck, I gotta stop playing games.
That's another way to do it. That'll work.
Yeah,
too.
boobs help.
By the way, his advice is go to a strip club.
Oh my god, what do you expect?
Oh, I hope that helped.
Yeah, and, within Stacked Up, is there anything for someone that maybe is active duty that can do to help or be a part of Stacked Up?
Why, as a matter of fact, there is. Come talk with us after we're done. We'll chat with you.
Are you gonna be here tomorrow? Because I've actually got to go to a dinner.
Sir?
We have a booth on the floor. Myself, I have some of our aerosol veterans. We're on the floor. Like, by all means, come track us down.
Yeah, look for the red shirts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Come on.
I'm very short.
You are?
I'm Dr. K. I'm a former suicide interventionist and currently a psychology professor at the University of North Texas at Dallas. And we were kind
up
of...
here.
Oh, thank you. We were kind of broaching this topic, and I can read about this all I want, but I want the raw opinions. A lot of us are familiar with the fact that many behavioral therapists are now using exposure therapy for PTSD symptoms, having clients play very realistic combat sequences. And I was curious as to whether you guys had attempted that specifically for PTSD symptoms, or if you knew someone who has, and what that response was.
Negative, unfortunately. I mean, when I got out, that didn't exist, so it was not something. Anybody here? I mean, that's
I did that
still pretty.
accidentally.
What's that?
I did that accidentally.
Okay.
I was a COD freak. I don't remember what was it, 3 or 4, or whatever. One of the Modern Warfare games came out. In the intro sequence of the game, you're standing in the turret of a Humvee behind a minigun.
It's Modern Warfare 2, and that was in the Kabul, and that was the same thing with the radio chatter. I'm there with it.
I freaked the fuck out. It was bad.
Yep, that sequence.
That set me back like months.
What was that Medal of Honor game that had the where all the insurgents were coming in on that fob? I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember.
That was another one that actually set a really hard trigger. Yeah, it was just Medal of Honor. That's another one that really like hit a hard spot when I played it over after I came back from Afghanistan. That was one of the most. I was maybe 5 minutes into it, and I said, "No, I can't play this anymore." And I literally just dropped the entire game. I was like, "I can't do this right now." That was a hard trigger as well too.
Sorry, I'm so excited. That opening sequence, I didn't know anybody else felt that way, but I mean, Holy shit! And the thing is the radio chatter that they had in that opening scene.
Yeah.
It comes up, and it's just you're just hearing the chatter and the squelches between the radio comms, and it's like. So yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that about you.
I just got goosebumps again. That sequence fucked with me. It was bad. I'm an odd case though. For me to get normal, I'm not gonna say better. For me to get normal, I had to run from people like you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm a weird fucker. I had to stop taking the drugs. I had to stop talking to people, and for me to get better, I went to Starbucks.
Sure.
And I bought a cup of coffee, and I sat down in Starbucks, and I forced myself to drink that whole cup of coffee. Burned the shit out of my mouth because I drank it so fast, because I wanted to get the hell out of there. But that was my version of exposure therapy, and that was, I learned how to function in today's society again. But yeah, games can help. I've had friends that, realistic combat sequences for infantry guys, good luck. Some of them it's gonna work, some of them you're gonna get punched in the face as that dude is running the fuck out of the room. He's gonna run. It's not gonna be okay for him. It's all gonna depend on who it is and where he is.
Absolutely.
It's a bag of shit,
I'd love to talk to you more though. We just opened up we now have a suicide prevention team on our, we just, some of our folks got certified with psych armor. So would love to talk with you after that.
I would as well. I don't have a whole lot to say specifically to that question, but exposure therapy is something I'm very, very interested in. It's been 5 years, Monday is 5 years for me, so I'm kind of like, I'm through it. I'm on the other end of what I was dealing with, but that was something that I always thought, because you live it again and again and again and again, and having spoken to some people who do things like that, I'm like, that seems awesome. Like, I would totally get blown up again virtually, like to go through it, because it's all about like desensitizing, right? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
training your brain to get control over.
Yes.
It's like, this is okay. But yeah, I totally would get blown up again virtually. Physically, I'd like to avoid it. But I'm so fascinated with all that. I'd love to talk to you more.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate your feedback.
Absolutely, thanks very much.
How long do we have?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, hey, I know we don't have another panel after this. Can we just keep going? Do they charge us extra? What's the question? We'll wait, we'll find that out. They'll let us know.
You're good. Hi, my name is Nicole. I'm a daughter, niece, granddaughter, and cousin of multiple branches, and also the current girlfriend of an active duty.
Come through, baby girl.
Yes.
Cool.
So I actually have two questions for you. One is going to be more focused on games. We've talked a lot about video games. We've had a lot of story about video games. But my question to you is, would anything, or do you guys have any programs for sending like a giant box of card or board games over for the soldiers to just play and fuck around or do whatever on their downtime? Is that helpful? Is that interesting? Or would there be interest for it? Or is it kind of just a video game thing where you can really kind of...
Well, it used to be, because that was why I started in the first place. Gaming was my escape. I wanted to send that down range. Guys get really excited about that stuff. Board games are a little bit more, if you send a Settlers, a Catan, you get an average Joe infantry grunt, like, what the fuck is this, man?
Yeah.
So I was infantry, I can do that.
If there's anything that has to be read.
You can't say that. I
So much Uno. So much Uno, because it's
I was thinking Uno, Cards Against Humanity. I mean, there's even some quick card games down on the floor, just like that.
I know there is a Cards Against Humanity. I don't believe they're here this year. But if you get with me afterwards, I'll find out for you right now. There's a Cards Against Humanity it's literally catered to nothing but military. Does anyone here know the name of it?
That's awesome.
Does anyone here know? Yes, I met them last year. They're really awesome. It's everything military related. What was that?
Yeah.
Did anyone know it? No. There you go. Disgruntled Vets. That's the one. It's literally Cards Against Humanity with nothing but like
Disgruntled Decks.
Decks. I'm sorry.
Pretty good.
I got you.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that would be a really good game in my opinion. I mean, there's nothing better than having a card come out and say my DD214 and then tying it to like my escape of life or something like that.
He joked about the Settlers thing, but we actually just did. I mean, we sent all the Dark Souls board games out. We've been doing more board games we just sent out 100 supply crates in December. And a lot of those had board games and stuff in it too, and we're really seeing now that like, okay, we can kind of expand outside of just video games. Again, there's target audiences that we keep in mind, where it's like, where is this going? I know that when I send one of these to a Navy unit, like we will stick board games and stuff in there, and those are awesome because again, they don't need power, they don't need, they can stick it in a backpack and take it with them, and there's no reliance on outside resources. But yeah, like the board games and stuff, we absolutely do include those in our programs.
And what was your second question, real quick?
No, you're good. So my second question is actually more on the line of hers. She's talking about the support and stuff during. My question is actually more when you guys come home.
Yes,
Ooh.
please talk about that.
All right, I'll stand on this one. I liken being deployed overseas to being sent to prison. I've never been sent to prison, but it's not a popular analogy. But guys who have been in the military, prison, they speak their own language. They've gone through things that they can try to explain to you, but it's never going to be the same thing unless you've been inside, unless you've done that stuff. And you're just going to have to, he was saying, be patient. But there's going to be a lot of things that just aren't going to make a lot of sense. And a perfect show to watch is Orange is the New Black. I know it sounds weird, but that's a great, this is a normal person, goes to jail. She comes out not the same person that she came home or went in as. And that's kind of what's going to happen. A lot of guys that come back, even if they come back, didn't get in a bunch of shootouts, they still come back a different person. And that's a big piece of it. So you're going to have to be patient and make sure to listen a lot. Like talk to the communication. What else we got? Anybody?
I mean, and I hate that I had to start it off like this because you said it earlier. My wife at the time, what's it called? No, she was, like I said, she was one of the few women, like very spot on, mind you. She was military at the time too, and I can't speak from her point of view because she was always there, and we both actually deployed together to Iraq on my third tour. And when we came back, like I said, she was dealing with her stuff, but I gave her a lot of like props because she had not only carried the handle of taking care of her own shit, she helped me take care of mine. She, like how Dave said earlier, push a little, but don't let them off the hook. Like give them space, but don't let them off the hook. I promise you. If you just keep doing that over time, when we feel our comfort zone, once we're kind of dealing with our own shit, we figure it out. We're men. Well, I'm gonna say right now, we're dumb and we're slow. But I mean, it's true though.
It's pride.
Yeah.
It's pride.
It's pride. And yeah, don't let them off the hook. Just nudge a little here and there, and I promise you, you'll get little pieces of the puzzle as it goes through over time, and then you'll put the whole thing together and be able to help them out a lot more.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, so we got time for one more. They're throwing us out. All right, anyway, but let's get one more in there, and then we'll go ahead and answer any questions you have outside. I'm happy to chat with you. We're not going anywhere. So.
I think they're rock, paper, scissoring over who gets to ask the question.
Well, he was here first, but he let me cut in front of him.
Who can do more
He said
push-ups?
Yeah,
I like one, so I mean.
do it. One round. You don't
It's
get
fine. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Give us a shot. What do you got?
Go ahead.
It's a quick question. We can just back
Lightning
up.
round.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Will, private first class. Just graduated boot camp actually last month. I'm here on boot
Where,
leave.
you graduated from what?
Boot camp MCRD City.
Oh, welcome.
You shouldn't have went.
I'm here on boot leave and recruiter's assistance, and like gaming has been my hobby for pretty much all of high school and middle school. But like when I joined the military, I kind of was worried that was going to have to end, and obviously that's not the case. And I was going to ask if. What's the best piece of advice like that you guys can all give me for balancing both my career and gaming at the same time in a way that like still makes me an effective Marine?
It depends what your goals are.
I can jump in.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You single?
Yes, sir.
There ain't much you got to worry about, brother. I'm gonna tell you right now. As long as you're not getting your ass, as long as you're not showing up late, you're taking care of your work, and you come back and your barracks room is squared away, you do whatever the hell you want because nobody's really checking on you. If anything, you're probably keeping yourself out of trouble by playing video games 12 hours after you get off of work. So you just keep on keeping on. If somebody comes in and tells you to go freaking sweep something, go do it, come back, do whatever the hell you want to do, man.
Yes, yeah.
You're living the dream, brother. Enjoy it.
You're in the right spot right now.
You're gonna meet a good woman and she's gonna domesticate your ass, and you're gonna wish you could sit in the barracks.
It's not that bad.
The military.
Hey, look, I'm happily married.
Games
You
away.
know, my wife and I've been together for 13 years.
Second wife.
No, I'm on my first,
Oh,
actually.
first bite.
Yeah, I am the anomaly, folks.
The anomaly.
But no, I've been with my wife for 13 years, and I love her to death. But you know what? I do miss sitting in the barracks playing World of Warcraft till 4 in the morning once in a while.
18
Just don't let it interfere with your work life, man. Make sure you're staying in shape. You take care of your business. After that, your time is your time.
That's all it is, man. And especially when you're starting off young, man. That's all it is. Do your shit. Don't fuck up. You'll be fine.
Yes,
The military will never take away your video games. Boobs will.
He's not wrong.
Wow, there's a t-shirt right there.
I know, right?
All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming out. This was awesome. Give yourself a round of applause, seriously. All right, we're gonna be outside. Come approach us. We're here on the show.